All right, don't mind if you guys hear Blue's Clues in the background, but Emma's up now. So it was the Friday of my 39 weeks OB appointment, and it was 5 a.m. I felt like pressure in my pelvic area. So this pressure, I felt it with Emma when I was 7 centimeters, and they had to like turn me to get Elmo to get Emma to lodge into my pelvis. So I guess she wasn't there yet. Oh my gosh, it was the most painful thing, especially with Emma. It was super painful. But then I felt like pressure in my pelvic. So I've been like Googling like, when do you know that you're gonna go into labor? Because obviously I had Emma, but I forgot, you know? And so I was like, okay, there's like the pelvic pressure. So I like documented that in my notes, like pelvic pressure. That was going on for like an hour. And then I started feeling cramps in my back, my lower back. So I'm like, okay, that's a good sign because I've been seeing that. So I'm like, okay, cool. After I started feeling cramps in my lower back, I was like, great, this is a good sign. Like we're starting. So I was documenting it on my notes, like every time it happened. It wasn't as bad. And then it started traveling to like my front pelvic, like where the cramp was happening. So it really does feel like period cramps. So it starts in the back. So that's like the first sign is in the back, and then I guess it travels to the front. But here and there, I would feel like the pelvic pressure. So I was like, okay, great. He's lodging himself in. Like we're about to be there. And then it happened like every maybe like 10 minutes. So it was like 5 a.m. and then so it kept happening. Waited till like 8. I started texting my OB at when that started happening, saying that I'm feeling like, you know, pelvic pressure and, you know, cramping. My OB replied and she said that I could come in at 10 or at 1. My OB appointment was at 1:30. So I'm like, I'm not waiting till 1, you know, I'm gonna go in at 10 just to be sure. But then like around 8-ish, it was like kicking in, like the cramp was kicking in, and I was like, ooh, okay. When the contractions would come, it wasn't as bad. I was still able to go around and move around, but there were like a couple where I had to like stop and like really breathe through it, because I was like, you know what, let me try to let myself dilate at home before I go, because I remember with Emma, I went and I was only like at 3. So I'm like, boo, I don't want to be waiting there forever. To labor, it was like 20 hours with Emma. And then it was only like maybe less than like 5-minute push and she came out. So I was like, okay, like the laboring part is long, you know, so let me try to hold it out at home as long as I can. I was just doing my normal routine in the morning, and then a couple times where I had to like really stop and breathe. So I'm like, okay, like we might have to go. And then it started happening from like 10 minutes to 7 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and then like 7. So it was below like 10 minutes. But I know like they say do the 5-1-1. So like every 5 minutes for a whole hour, where the contraction lasts longer than a minute, you know. I was like, okay, let me kind of time it. Like the contraction would go for like a good 30 seconds, but it did happen like around every 5 minutes for like a good hour until I decided for us to go. This was around like, I think 10 when we started going. So around 10-11, I was having contractions in the car, documenting it, and then we got to the hospital. Didn't know that we can't have Emma there with us, so we had her. So I was like, okay, fine, like I'll just go in and make and drop Emma off. The nurse came and checked me, and I was 2 centimeters, and I'm all like, really? Like I thought I was more than that. Like I was hoping I'd be like 4, you know. I had to like wait like 2 hours to check if I went any further. So then I went to 4 when she came back and checked. So I'm like, okay, great, let's do this, let's have this child. So they moved me to a room. But like for some reason this time around, like with Emma, I was like pinned to the bed. I'm like, I am laying here and I am going to take in the pain. And so my whole thing is just lay there. When the pain comes, then like figure out how to cope with it. So that when the next, like, let's say when it goes from like 5 to 6 centimeters, like, so when the next painful part hits, like I can, you know, endure that and cope with that. So that's kind of like my system that I did with Emma. But with Noble, I wanted to walk around because, you know, they said they want you to walk around, but I don't know why it was so painful to walk with Emma. Like, maybe it was my first time, but oh, I have been drinking the raspberry leaf tea, and they said my cervix was super soft. So I'm like, great, that is what I wanted. So I was like, okay, good. Like, that's what I wanted, because Emma's, I remember it was like, it was just not soft. I tried to drink the raspberry leaf tea with Emma, but for some reason, homegirl, she's a hot body. So when she was in me, like, I had to put on the AC. I could not take baths because, yeah, she was super hot body. But with Noble, I could. So I was drinking the raspberry leaf tea, like, the last, like, maybe, I think I tried it. Yeah, the last trimester, I started drinking it. So they say it was really soft. And so I was walking around. I was like, great, let me walk around, because I couldn't do that with Emma. I want to speed up this labor process because it was so long with Emma. I'm not trying to be there for 20 hours too. I was at 4 centimeters trying to walk around and endure the pain standing up, because that was the best bet. I knew I wanted to go natural with Noble as well, because I did do it with Emma. And I did not want epidural because my mama was like, nah, y'all don't need that. So I'm like, cool, I got this. The pain wasn't that bad. I remember getting to 6 with Emma, and it was painful. I was like on the verge of crying. But with Noble, I was like, all right, this is cool. Like, you know, it didn't really hurt as bad. So I'm like, all right, I'm hoping this is out of 6, you know, because I remember 7 and 8 was like the most painful ever. I was like walking on the ball for a good like hour, 20 minutes. They were checking me, and then I went from a 4 to a 6. I'm like, oh, great. Like, the pain wasn't that bad. So I was like, okay, perfect, you know, and I had my Jesus music on. I have a playlist for my delivery, and I was listening to that. But however, my mentality this time around was not like 100% there. I just felt like with Emma, I prayed a lot about her, and I thought a lot about her, and I researched a lot about like delivery and everything. So my mentality with Emma was there, and it was there throughout the whole 20 hours, and I was able to endure everything. But with Noble, yeah, no, because I've been so busy with Emma. My mind wasn't just there. Like, I started researching like the last like 3 weeks like of delivery, and oh my gosh, how do I breathe again? I forgot, like, how do I breathe, you know? It really plays a big role. Like, you literally have to be somewhere else to be able to deliver a baby without epidural. I was at 6, and so I was like, okay, great, let me go lay down now, because this is when the pain's gonna come. So I went to lay down, which it was so painful for some reason laying down. So I lay down, I just listened to my music, and hopefully I would just get to 7, 8, right? I was on the bed, and I was like working on my breathing. Every time the contraction came, I was like, in my nose, out my mouth. And it really, you do have to practice, and I get why they say that, because when the contraction comes, my sister, she was like, she couldn't breathe. I mean, I used to run a lot and all that stuff, so I've been practicing breathing through my nose and out my mouth, because you have to hold it for such a long time. So when you're breathing, you go, and you have to like breathe it out so slow, because that's the only way that the contraction won't hurt, or you won't feel the need to fight the contraction, right? So when you're breathing it out, you're like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you're breathing out, like slowly, like you, that's why they think you need chapstick too. Okay, like a lot of these were hitting my brain when I was like breathing this time around, because I'm like, that's why you need chapstick. And they say you need chapstick because then your lips would be like dry, because like it's like the little hole, you're like, it gets really dry. When the contraction hits, you want to breathe, because it will lessen the pain, and it'll make your body not want to fight the contraction, because you don't want to fight against it, because that's just gonna be more painful for you. Yeah, breathing, like really practice breathing, because you want to practice to be able to hold a long breath and slowly let the air out. I think that's the best way to say it, because when you slowly let it out, because the contractions, they last for like a minute. You got to be able to do for a minute, where you're holding your breath and slowly letting all the air out for a minute. so you're not fighting the contraction, right? And I remember at one point I was kind of fighting the contraction, and it sucks. It was really painful. So then a new nurse came, and I was still like at 6.5-ish, almost 7 maybe. Not even 7 yet, 6.5. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this has been like 2 hours and I'm still at 6. Oh my gosh. So she like was telling me different positions to go into. So like I laid on my side and I had like the ball in between my legs. So I did that for maybe a good 30 minutes or an hour. Then she checked again because I was feeling like, oh my gosh, you know, so I had her check a couple times. And so she's like, she's like, okay, you're a 7, 7.5, like 7, like a 7, shy of a 7 or whatever. So I'm like, crap. So now she's like, you want to switch over to the other side? I'm like, yes, let's do that. So I switched over to the other side. That was painful too. So I stayed there. And then I was like at a 7, but like a 7-ish, half-ish, not even an 8 yet. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been in these positions for so long. And then so she's like, do you want to do like the throne where like you're sitting straight up and then like you have the ball or underneath your left leg, like, yeah, like that. And so I was like, okay, let's try that out. So I was in that. It was okay, but when the contraction hit, like it just felt like the baby wasn't moving down. Like that's just like my thought. Like I'm like trying to think about it. Like, okay, when contraction is hitting, if I'm in this throne position, like, yeah, she said, you know, because gravity's helping you. I'm like, well, not really, because you know how they say when you're pooping and squatting is the best way to go, and that's why people have like stools when they're pooping. Basically that, because I felt like my butt was there and my pelvic was like down here. So I'm like, how is baby gonna like, you know, get down there if I'm like, my back is like straight up, you know? So I'm like, okay, it's not really getting anywhere. So at one point I was like, okay, let me switch over to the other leg. So as I was sitting up, I like, when the contraction came, like I would push myself up just so I have like some, so I'm not sitting straight on my butt and I'm giving room for like, let's say baby to go down, right? To go. So I did that, and then she said I was like at an 8. I'm like, okay, great, we're going somewhere, but it was so painful. At this point, it was like 9-10 p.m. already. So I'm like enduring this pain in that position, but every time I would like lift myself up, you know, to let, you know, in my head, to let Noble like kind of go through. At this point, my mentality was like done. Like I remember with Emma, I was still like in my Jesus praising moment. I was still praising the Lord. I was like, yes, we are gonna get this baby out, and you know, I was there. But with Noble, at this point, I was so impatient. I was getting so impatient. At 8, I was still in that position, and I was just kind of like, I think I had the nurse come and check me again because the contractions were getting worse. So she checked me again. I think at 8, I told them like, just break my water, or I think it was a 7. 7, I was like, oh, just break my water, because I know the other nurse said that should they break my water? But I know I said I wanted to go natural, so I'm like, oh, maybe they don't want to break my water because they wanted to burst naturally. But with Emma, they had to break my water as well. So at 7, I was like, okay, just break my water. Let's hope that, you know, he comes quicker. So they said, okay. So then they broke my water. Then the contractions got a little bit more painful. And that's when I got to like 8, and then like 8.5. I told the nurse to check me again, and I think she checked me like 3 times, and I was like a 7, 8, 8.5, shy of a 9, maybe 3-4 times. So I wasn't there yet. So I'm all like, dang. And then so she kind of said like, oh, you know, like basically kind of like she don't want to check me too much, and said that, you know, like when I am, you know, going to like true labor, then I probably won't be able to like, you know, talk or anything. But I'm all like, okay, but when the contractions are gone, like I'm okay. So I was like, okay then. So then I just kept enduring the pain, right? After that, I didn't want to be like the boy who cried wolf, even though it was like painful. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just not. And let me just wait, like how she said, I wouldn't be able to like talk or whatever. So I'm like, okay, let me just wait. I think it got to the point where I was like, because when you breathe, like I said, when you're breathing, you're not like pushing the baby, you know, or you're not fighting against the contraction, right? So when you're pushing, then you want to like fight it, so because you're pushing the baby out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fight this contraction and let's see how it goes. Maybe if like I push when the contraction comes a little, then it might push him out because my cervix is soft. So that might help. So that was my thinking. So at this point, I was like, yeah, let me do that and see how it goes. I felt the contraction. I was like kind of like pushing a little bit, and it was painful. But then I was like, okay, let me breathe. So I did that like twice. And then I think it was 2 of those. And then like the third one came. And then I was like, Mick was like laying down on the couch. Like, it was so painful. I was like, babe, can you get the nurse? And he don't know about the little phone thing on the side of the bed. So I was like, babe, go get the nurse. And then he like went. And then like she came in and she checked me again. She said I was like a 9.5. And I'm like, ain't no way I'm a 9.5. I better be a dang 10. So I was like, okay, well, I got a feeling this child is coming, right? So then she was all like, okay, so she called the doctor. She said, okay, you know, she's a 9.5, but her cervix is really soft. You know, maybe maybe she can try and like push the baby out, right? So she called the doctor. So I'm like, all right, great, let's get this going. And then I was like, and then she went somewhere. I was like, I feel like I need a poop. So I said that, and so she was like, okay, just breathe. And then I was like breathing, so it was like a contraction that came. She's like, breathe. So I think that was when I was crowning, because I can feel like the burning, like the ring of fire, the burn down there where his head was crowning. So she told Mick to get the other nurses. She's like, oh, get the other nurses. So Mick went out. It was me and the nurse. And then the contraction came again, and then she told me, breathe. She's like, no, don't do this. She basically like, wait, just breathe. And so I did. I listened and I waited, and I did not push. I just waited, and I breathed through it, and that one went away. The second one came. Mick was still out getting the nurses, right? So I breathed, and she's like, wait, it's just me right here. I'm like, girl, you are a nurse. I don't care. You better catch this baby. And so that kind of situation came, and I was like, if I don't push this baby out and I just keep breathing, I'm just gonna hold for the doctor to come. No, I'm tired. I need this baby out of me now. I just pushed, because I'm like, you know what? If I keep holding, what if like the next contraction, he's not coming out? Like, no, I'm not doing that. I've been waiting for too long. We having this baby. So Mick was not even in the room. He went to get the nurses. I pushed, and then like Noble just like slipped out, like just came out, and Mick missed the whole thing because I wanted him to record it too. And like right when he came back, like Noble was already out, like the baby was out, and the nurse caught Noble, and then she put the baby on me, and that's when all the nurses came and the doctor came. I'm like, sorry doc, you ain't getting paid for this one. Yeah, it just felt like a sense of relief. I was good, but for some reason, like even after like Noble came out, like I was still feeling so much pain. Like I don't know, it was weird. Like the pain, the after pain was like there. I remember with Emma, I did not, like when Emma came out, it was great. Like I felt like everything was lifted, and I did not like feeling like much pain. Even when they pushed the placenta out with Emma, I did not feel much pain. But with this one, I don't know, like it was like painful I had to keep breathing to get that placenta out. I had to still do breathing. I did breathing because I teared a little bit. I didn't tear as bad as Emma. Emma was a 1st degree. But with Noble, it was like, I think they said like it was like almost a 1st degree, but barely. But they just like sewed me up. But when they did that, like the needle going in was like painful too. I just remember like holding Noble, and I was just like breathing, and I was like looking up, and they had like this kind of mirror thing, and I was able to see the placenta come out. I was able to see her going needling. Ooh, it was just, like I said, I don't think my mentality was 100% there like how it was with Emma. Like Emma, I was really, really prepared. I knew what to expect, and my brain was there. But this one, at 8, I was like, we are done having kids. I'm not doing this no more, because my labor is so long. I think with him, it was like 12 hours, because we went around 11 in the morning, and we did not have him till 11 at night. Yeah. So it's like 12 hours of laboring, and that's so long. And I get it, you know, sometimes like every woman is different. Sometimes you have a harder time pushing baby out, because I pushed him less than like 10 minutes and he was like, no, less than like 3 minutes and he was out already. Emma was like less than maybe 7 minutes and she came out. But I understand, like, sometimes like some women struggle more on the pushing and they labor quicker. But for me, I'm like, with these two, I labored for so long. The pushing was easy, but the laboring, I just can't do it. I was like telling Mick, like, if I have a third child, I'm doing epidural. Like, I cannot do this long labor, and it's just too much. So I'm like, no, we're done, because I really don't want to get epidural too, right? So we'll see. But for now, I'm done. Like, I'm like telling Mick, I'm done. We're not having any more kids. We are good. You get one, I get one. If anything was to happen, you grab one, I grab one. Like, yeah, I was like done. At 8 centimeters, I determined in my brain, no more. I am done. This pain is too much. Doing 2 kids with no epidural, all natural. I'm like, no, I am done. 2 is great. 1 boy, 1 girl is great for us and our family dynamic. Then we had him, and he was 5 pounds 14 ounces, I think 18 inches. He was really tiny. He was smaller than Emma. Emma was like 6 pounds and 6 ounces. My friend Posy, she made chicken for me, and so Mick had to go get that, and then Emma was with her too. So Mick, and then she can't sleep over with us too. So I was like, okay, like, it's fine, just take her home, and then I'll just sleep here with Noble by myself. But honestly, it was the most peaceful time sleeping with him without Emma and Mick, because Emma is at the point right now where she's super annoying, where it takes her so long to go to sleep, and she knows what she kind of wants now. And so I'm like, okay, I do not have the energy for her. So Will and I, we stayed by ourselves at the hospital. He was such a good baby, good sleeper. I'm not breastfeeding because dang, it was so hard with Emma. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. They literally suck the life out of you. And yeah, my milk like did not come until like 3 days later. And with Emma, I think I made the mistake of like just solely doing breastfeeding, like survival of the fittest. If there's milk in my boobs, then you get milk. If not, then you don't, you know? And that was very stressful. I think on the 3rd day, realizing that Emma was so hungry, because she woke up every 2 hours because she was hungry, and I didn't have milk, you know? So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that no more. I'm just gonna formula feed him. And he was a much happier baby, happier sleeper, slept for longer. So no, I'm not breastfeeding this time around. I mean, I did try it when my milk actually came 3 days after. I was like, you know what, let me give him some breast milk to say that I was able to give him a little bit of breast milk, and it was great. He latched on pretty good. I don't know why, but Emma, it took so long for her to latch. Like, I literally had to like literally had to hold my boob like a burger and like give it to her to latch on. Like, that's the reality of it. And it was a lot, and it was hard for her to latch on too. It was just not good. He did really good when he latched on for the first time after, like, you know, nipple, like the bottle nipple feeding. So yeah, we are here now. He is gonna be 2 weeks tomorrow, and he is such a good baby, a good sleeper. Not holding him as much as I did with Emma. I'm just letting him kind of chill by himself, because with Emma we did that, and you know, I have no regrets doing that because she was my first baby, and you know, I wanted to hold her as much as I could and embrace her. So yeah, that's the story of how Noble came into this world.